Hey, party people. This is your friendly neighborhood over-caffeinated fashion design and illustration professor Zoe Hong, here to test a bunch of metallic paints. Y'all wanted to know what metallic media I have in my studio. I have so much stuff, I had to break it up into categories. Today, we are going over my water-soluble, water-based, plays with water paints. Okay, so let's go over real quick what we're looking at today. This is the Speedball Super Pigmented Acrylic Ink in silver. And this is one of those where you have like teeny tiny little powders suspended in a clear liquid that you have to shake up real good before you start using it. This one is a Windsor and Newton Ink, if you can read that. Windsor and Newton Ink in gold. And this is another one of those. I just shook it, but it's another one of those that separate into teeny tiny little pigment powders suspended in a clear liquid. This is Talens Gouache silver, no shaking required. And then I have 3 of these Maimeri, can you see that logo? There we go. Metallic powder colors. I have 3 different colors of these. And then I have the Gansai, Tami, Starry colors, 6 color set. They're water-based pigments. They come in this 6-pan set. They come in these separate little pans. They're not glued on, so it's not like shoddy workmanship that they come out like they're supposed to, I guess. And my assumption is you can like put these individual pans into other watercolor kits if you want to. So that's kind of cool. So there's that. And then for testing purposes, today I'm using the Canson 130 GSM 140 pound cold press 100% cotton watercolor paper. This is like a medium quality paper to me at a medium price point. I don't like using, the most expensive, highest quality, fanciest watercolor papers for testing. I like something middle of the road. I think it makes the testing a little bit more fair that way. And then later on, I want to mix some of these metallics with non-metallics. And so I thought they would do best if I kind of tried to get a similar product brand match. So I have a Maimeri gouache to mix back with the Maimeri powders. I have a Talens gouache to mix back with the Talens. I have a Windsor and Newton cobalt ink to mix back with the Windsor and Newton gold. I have a couple of other inks here to test out with some of the others. A tube watercolor. Someone told me that the powders work really well with a gum arabic as opposed to mixing with water. So I want to test that on one of the colors. So I have a tube of this. And just FYI, I am still testing the metal palette. So I'm not painting on that yet. I'm still working on it. And I will be not using any of my new brushes. I'll be using my old brushes. I want to test my new brushes separately with paints. When I do tests, I like to keep things very predictable except the one variable. And that's how I like to test. So I'm not going to test all these new things at the same time. The brushes will be in a future video. What test are we doing today, Zoe? Well, I'm glad you asked. All right, so we're going to swatch here. Okay, I'm going to try to swatch as opaquely as possible. These are water-based, so, some of that may not be very opaque at all. We're going to do some water gradients, and then on one of these, I'm going to do the gum arabic gradient. And then here in these sections, I'm going to do some line work. And then in this section, I'm going to layer on top of another color to see how opaque it is, how good it is at covering whatever's underneath. And then here, I'm going to mix with a little bit of a different color. And here I'm going to mix a lot and just kind of see how that plays out, how it plays with other paints. Right, so yeah, let's do this. I'm going to put some water in here because previous experience has shown me that you kind of got to work at it to soften these paints up. So I'm just going to go ahead and put some water in here and let these pans kind of soak up the water while I start testing the other ones. So I'm just gonna do that real quick. It seems funny to me that I spent 2 hours painting all these test swatches and sample lines and whatnot so that I could make a video less than 20 minutes long. But I'm not going to bore you. I mean, what I'm doing right now is pretty self-explanatory. The swatch I'm trying to get as even as possible. It's pretty hard to do with these like liquidy, glittery suspension things. The gouache is far creamier, just by its very nature of being gouache. Now I'm testing it out on drawing lines and cross hatching to see, you know, how it would work for calligraphers. And, you know, I don't have any calligraphy background. You know, I went to Korean language school when I was a little kid, and I took a calligraphy class, a Korean calligraphy class for like a hot second back in the day, and that's it. But I wanted to draw some lines so that for the calligraphers out there, you can kind of see how it shapes up, because some of this stuff is too thick. You really have to work with the consistency to get like a writing fluidity. And then, you know, these powders, they're so freaking pretty. Look at that palette. Look at it. Look at it. Yeah, when I'm working with stuff that's like super liquidy and stuff that tends to get everywhere, like these powders and these watery inks, I do like to grab a palette that has deep wells in it, as opposed to the big flat tray, the metal tray that I'm going to be using later for gouaches and stuff that kind of don't spread around a lot. So when do I use metallics? So when I'm trying to render a metallic thing, it really depends. Like if I'm trying to do like, you know, a metal cuff on an arm or big pieces of, you know, shiny metal, I tend to render them not with metallic paints, but like a shiny fabric, so that I'm creating highlights, big highlight shapes and shadows using, you know, cool grays or the khaki beigey undertones of metallic golds. And I go over how to do really shiny fabrics in my shiny fabrics video. And I approach metals like that. Now, if I'm doing, let's say, metallic embroidery all over a fabric, I will use metallic paint or brush pen or marker. If I'm trying to render a fabric, like an iridescent fabric that has gold threads or silver threads running through it, I will render the fabric, and then I will put a layer of watered down metallic paints, a sheer layer in the highlighted areas on top, so that when the light hits the fabric, the light will pick up on the metallic threads, and that is how I use metallic. And then, you know, metallics are great for just accents on illustration work, like non-fashion illustration work, or, you know, if you're just doing something fun, you know, metallics can add, you know, some cool touches. So yeah, but I know a lot of people love to use metallic inks for calligraphy. I just received a wedding invitation that was all done in gold calligraphy, and it looks great on, was it navy or black envelopes? Yeah, but that looks really great, and you know, metallics are just fun. So yeah, now I'm playing with layering and mixing with different media to create different colors. And as you can see, the first two, the inks, like they don't want to mix. They're not even mixed on its own accord, you know. So, you know, if you want a blue ink with gold speckles floating in it, then that's how to do it. But you're not going to get a solid mixed color with the gold ink. You know what I mean? Because it's just sparkles floating in liquid, and that's how the paint is going to come out too. So that's not really a criticism. That's just like, hey, this is how it's going to be. And so if you're looking for that effect, this is how you get it. If you want something where, you know, the whole paint is mixed in together to create a new color that incorporates the metallic, then you're going to have to go with something else. I am going to go over all the results at the end of the video. So stay tuned for that. So shiny. You know, most art supplies, most, not all, it's really about the purpose of the art supply and what it is good for, as opposed to, oh, this is just good or this is just bad. Because when I look at things like the Speedball ink and the Windsor and Newton ink, look at that. They're patchy as hell. Look at that. The gouache is a little bit better, still really patchy. Okay. But they write beautifully. Okay. They are inks, these two. They're inks. Their consistency is just right to do a lot of writing. And they're not really all that opaque. Like, you need a few layers. Okay. And they don't really play well with others. Okay. They still stay separate. So these two, I think, function best for writing. The gouache is kind of in between. Okay. This one, it mixes really well with the pink, and it makes like a really loud metallic pink gouache, which is cool, which means you can have all kinds of different metallic color gouaches just by adding the silver gouache. And this one writes pretty well too, provided you can get the consistency right when you first start working. These three powders, they're freaking beautiful. The gum arabic tones down the metallic quite a bit. You see how I did these two with water, and this one I did with the gum arabic, and you don't see that really beautiful shiny metallic. Water, gum arabic, water, gum arabic, water, gum arabic. You see that? Mm-hmm. It's powder, you know, you have to really work with the consistency on your own, but provided you can get the consistency right, you can do some really great line work. If you can get the consistency, the same consistency as the ink, right? Because the inks were powder suspended in liquid, and this one is just sans liquid, okay? They are a tiny bit more opaque, not noticeably. They do really well. They just might look more opaque because the colors themselves are darker. They're darker golds and coppers. Okay. And, I mean, these browns, they mix really well. The white and the powder are not friends. It turns gray. Okay, and again, the gum arabic kind of dulls that down. Just comparing the water one. Now the trick to these is really, you know, as you saw in the beginning, I dumped a bunch of water into each well, and I really let it sit and soften up these hard, dry pans of color. The whole time I was doing, you know, that set, these were sitting and the water was working with the paint, and so the paint softened up a ton. The first time I used these, I didn't do that, so I kept re-wetting the pan, kept re-wetting the pan, and it was annoying, but I just dumped a bunch of water in there, just really let it soften, and the pigment is really awesome. Overall, just so much creamier and smoother. If I worked a little bit harder on getting a more beautiful gradient. But overall, these are far less patchy. They're creamier. Okay. And then But even within this 6, there are some that work better than others. Can you see how bumpy and splotchy the light gold is? The champagne gold was so easy to work with. I mean, some of these others were too, but it was like after working with the light gold, the champagne gold was just so much smoother and creamier. But it's not bad. It's just really a matter of what color you want. And then, again, you can write with all of these. Again, it's just a matter of getting the right color. And I just realized that this could look like a really gnarly looking okay, but it's not. It's Korean. And they are, by and large, far more opaque than the other paints. But, yeah, mixing with the white watercolor, you don't really, you kind of lose all the metallic. So that was a fail. This is not meant to mix well with others. When you mix it with a lot of water, you can still see a bit of the sheen. So if you were trying to render something that had a real subtle iridescence, that this kind of method might work. Water and white watercolor with the metallic. See that? It's kind of subtle. Okay, this just looks like really cheap foundation. And then up here, I used the black watercolor because the lighter colors, I thought they would show up more. And this is cool. You know, this works as a dark silver. I think that mixes quite well. And that one, it's a weird color. I don't know when you would use it, but it does actually mix. Okay, just ends up being this very strange gold silver. So those work. But maybe it's the white, you know, the white with the Maimeris, they didn't play out so well either. So maybe you just stay away from mixing these with white and they'll play well because they did okay with the other colors, really. All right. So again, think about what you need, how you like to use them. You know, if you do a lot of writing and you don't want to sit around and mix the right color and whatnot, maybe these watery inks are more your speed. If you're actually covering large areas of color, maybe this is more your jam. So think about what you need, what works best for you, what colors you like, what consistencies you like, and how you like to work, and let that inform your purchasing decisions. All right. I hope this video was helpful for you. Please do give me a thumbs up if it was. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, all those good things, all those ways you show me love. And yeah, drop me all your questions in the comment section below. Let me know if you like this video and you want to watch the follow-up video where I go over metallic markers and color pencils, things like that. I have also a couple of like random brush pens and stuff. So let me know if you want to see that video in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next video.